Hey everyone, welcome back. This is part 3 of my OpenGL demo, and in today's video I'm showing you this, where there's two textures. If I hold the arrows up, it fades to one, and if I hold the arrows down, it fades to the other. It's pretty simple, but just wanted to show you. So if we go in here, the first thing that you'll notice is different is we have this shader.h, which I didn't write this, but it's just this .h file that includes all of these, basically includes all the setup for the vertex shader and fragment shader stuff. And then the next thing, we added this mix float and this get key just to our process input. So now if we push the key up, we increase the float ever so slightly, and we have it capped, and the same thing for if we push the key down. Alright, this is a little different from last video. So we have 4 vertex points, and then in each of these there's also a color and a texture. We don't really use the color, but it's still there. The EBO, so this is the element buffer array, and this just basically tells it that first create a triangle with these 3, so 0, 1, and 3, and then a second one with 1, 2, and 3. So this gives us the rectangle shape. And then most of this is the same from last video, but this one, so now we do 8 times the size of float instead of 3, because now we have 8 elements. And then for these two, we start this one at 0. So this is just the position. So we start those at 0, and then we start colors at 3, and we start texture coordinates at 6. And then here's the code for textures. So we create 2 textures. We also have a width, a height, and an NR channels, and then we create some data. We bind both the textures. Clamp to edge and nearest. These are just what happens if the texture is bigger than what it is. So I can show you. I'll set this to GL repeat, and then GL repeat. So if we go up here and let's set the texture coordinates to 2. So this means that if we run it, there's going to be like 4 faces. See? So there's like 4 because we say the texture's twice as big as the vertex. And this still works like so. So yeah, that's what that does. And then we set the floats, the H offset. We don't use that, but later down here, once through the textures, this is where we load our 2 images. We first load the face, and then this basically just sets it up and says we want to use red, green, blue. And we do the same thing up here with the background, like that crate. And then the render loop, we shader program set float, which I can show you those in there. We set the mix float equal to what we set it up earlier in the input, so that determines how much they mix. And then from there, we just activate the textures. The main one, this, we take in 3 layouts. So the first one is that position, and that is this right here. So the first one's position, the second one's color, the third one's the texture coordinates. We output the texture coordinates, and then we just like set the position equal to these 3. So this is just the X position plus an offset if we set it, the Y position, but we flip it, and then the Z position. And then in our fragment shader, we take in the out position and the texture coordinates. We sample 2 textures with a uniform. That just lets us, like, that's the shader program.set float. Right, this lets us talk with these, with the uniforms. And then the main thing was we set the fragment color equal to a mix of the first texture and then the second texture, but we flip the second texture, and then the mix amount is 0.2, so 20% plus the mix float. So as we increase it, it mixes more and more, and as we decrease it, it mixes less and less. And that gives us the result like this. Alright, well, thanks for watching, and if you want to see the previous video in this series, click here to watch it now. See ya!